All right, Roger here. Rat Rod build, Plymouth, part number 32 right now. We've got the 17th of February, 2017, and it's been a good solid 5 months before I dropped the video. The last time you saw this thing in Hockenheim along with the coupe over here in the corner, and we were doing crazy stuff, burnouts, and having a good time at the drag races. Since then, I've been to Dallas, Texas. I went to a place called Pilot Point, that's north of Dallas, about 20 clicks. Went to Pat's Auto Sales and did something there I haven't done in my entire 52 years on the planet. I bought myself 4 pickup trucks in one afternoon. So 66 C10, a 1957 custom step side, 6-cylinder, running, rust-free. A 1953 5-window 3100 series as a parts truck, but it's missing the motor, but who cares, I'm gonna drop the motor in anyway. And what was really cool, I found the 1949 Dodge Power Ram panel truck. Rust-free and bone straight, absolutely straight lines on the top and the bottom. So paid little money for most of this stuff. So I said, what the hell? I got projects lined up probably for the next 5 or 6 years. What we got right here real quick is a 1974 BMW 1602. And picked that up for the wife actually yesterday, just because I don't like the fact of buying cars over and over again and then watching them depreciate the day you buy them. So we got rid of her minivan that we drove for 14 years, or she did, and picked up this little, I call it a jewel right now. It's out of Portugal, rust-free, and it's just a simple car to work on with 86 horsepower, so that's fine over here. So what I want to show you here real quick is I consider the Plymouth basically done right now. Got a couple of minor things left on my big giant list over there, but I want to show you some cool stuff. This piece right here I was actually missing. I was looking for it all over the place. Then I was trolling the internet for the part and ran across a guy named Marco in Zagreb, Croatia, and he's actually got this piece right here. So we got the horse trading. He's actually been up here a couple of times with his buddy Josip, and he gave me this piece along with some of these stainless steel trim pieces right here, and we're in business right now. And I tell you what, if you're ever out in the woods and everything, you see an old car that's got stainless steel trim on the side of it, as long as it's not all dinged up and everything, man, you can set this stuff up and it looks absolutely gorgeous after you polish it. But anyway, what I've done here is I put this stuff back on both sides, and the hood is gonna stay the way it is right here, this old patina looking stuff. What was really interesting here is, see this little red line that runs all the way around here? There's actually 2 of them. And here, they're a little bit more prevalent right here. That was actually put on the car back in 1936 when this sucker rolled off the factory. And the patina, I'm gonna show you what I do. Everybody has their own little tricks, whether it's tongue oil or whatever you use. Let's see, here it is, this stuff right over here. This is what the Germans call it, epoxy Bonex. It's about $15, $16 a bottle, about 14 euros. Really good stuff, but it's based on epoxy. And I got my method of putting on there, and I'll share that with you in a second. Or you can go to Home Depot or the Post Exchange over here in Germany around the Wiesbaden area and get the stuff called Loctite. It's also an epoxy-based stuff, and what it does is it takes any kind of brown, rusty surface that you got, and it turns it black and actually prevents the rust. It actually does some kind of chemical reaction to it. So this is the look I'm looking for right here. Got my headlight buckets are done. Car's actually looking decent right now. So again, this is a site. Again, thanks Marco for giving me that piece. Let me show you, in case you haven't seen the other videos, here's the LS motor up in here. This is the Connect and Cruise 430 horsepower version. I didn't want to get anything higher with it all cammed up and everything, but this thing is actually working great. The most recent thing I've done to it is I've actually filled with 134 air, my air conditioning. There's my dryer down there. I got everything tucked up here. I'll have a little heat shield up here in a little while, but that's on the list of stuff to do. But rack and pinion power steering from Heights. Been playing with the suspension just a little bit on this thing, and I tell you what, I had this thing up to about 120 miles an hour yesterday on the Autobahn, and I even got that so it actually closes kind of simple. But I had a massive problem with some stuff called bump steer. Did a little research on there, but there's a company, if you see the little thing called Bear right there, I'll hold it really still, and you can actually adjust where your steering arms coming into the geometry of the A-arms going up and down, and if that is off, every time you hit a bump, my wheels would literally pop out like that. So for $179, Summit Racing Bear products, I actually bought that so I can actually adjust my bump steer on it or the geometry of the steering wheel. But the main thing this video is for is to show you this little feature up in here. The Galaxy Tab A Panoramic, sitting right back here, will literally cost you about $180, $200, depending on where you get it from, and I'll get to that in just a second. Let me show you what I got over here. This is basically where I had the block-off plate is part right here, which used to be over here, but since I didn't need it anymore, I moved it over here. My original glove compartment on the Plymouth was only about this big. So it is, I cut it off smooth, open this up. There used to be an ashtray right up in here. Cut that piece of metal out, got myself a little bitty squirrel hammer, and pinged that out right there. You can see some of my work up in here. It's not the most professional work, but it actually works. And what I've done here is I got myself this big giant wide opening now to get into my glove compartment. So I got access to all my stuff back here. And let me just show you up in here, put a little light up in here. This right here now is my $165 21 circuit AZ wiring harness. Then I got a move over here to my LS3 controller, and then way back there hidden, which I don't need to see but I can't access it with a couple of bolts, is my LS3 motor controller and obviously the transmission controller as well, and they basically interconnect with a bulkhead. One thing I want to show you here that's pretty cool is, as my Galaxy Tab, I'm going to cut my ignition on now. Well, I got my fan on. But if you notice, that cuts on, that's a switched USB port on the bottom or on the top. So my Galaxy Tab automatically cuts on when I cut the ignition on. That's kind of cool. But if you're at a car show and somebody says, hey, I got to charge my cell phone, you don't want to cut your ignition on the whole time. So I got the one on the bottom and made myself a second one. You just push it in, and it's switched all the time. You saw the little red light comes on, so you just basically pull that back out of there. And then I've got my 3.5 millimeter audio jacks in case somebody wants to hook up a stereo. And then way up there is my USB port in case somebody wants to bring me a memory stick and they want to play their music. And then obviously up here I got my little switch to cut off my light off and on. And right here's my little Bauhaus switch magnet. Tell you what, I get a whole lot of my car parts from the hardware store. Everybody knows this real quick. I'll cut my lights on here, cut on the ignition. I go to Summit Racing and I get some of their cheap, not cheap, it's about an $85 speedometer. I take all the guts and everything and I glue them. Literally, I'll hot weld and JB weld them behind here. And then so you've got your odometer setting, and if you reach right down here, you can actually hit that and you can zero it out, time. If you hold it for a second, it actually zeroes out. Of course, I'm going to be called a liar right now, so I got to get back here. Trip is what it is. The trip, if you hold it, it zeroes out. Same thing up here. Got all my analog gauges up here, which I like analog, and you saw the last video I took the ones out from I think they were called speedsters. You just couldn't see them, and these are the regular old classic gauges right here from Classic Instruments, and look nice and clean. And what I got up here is these are old LEDs, 12 volts. So I got my ignition on, turn signal obviously, left and right, right and left. And then another little feature here is I got my little thing right down here. See this little switch right here? It's my stainless steel pin, and if I open it, as I'm going down the road, alarm cuts on, both audible and you can see it pretty damn bright up here, because the last thing you want to do is any one of these rear doors which are suicide opening up. But again, the reason we're here, I want to show you this little feature. So you can cut on this right here, swipe it one time, and then this is just what I was listening to earlier right here. You can open up right down here. This is your ashtray, but I have my JVC controller. My head unit is actually hid behind here. I can open this up. Got nice loud music. And then you can pick any video you want to. Then you can actually cut this one off right here, create a little Stimmung, as the Germans call, a little atmosphere up in here. Got the dimmer switch. And another cool thing is I've actually got Google Maps up in here too, and then everybody knows that is a nice little navigation system. Or you can use Waze, which is another one. I don't know if you're familiar with Waze, but Waze is like one of the coolest things as far as bringing in maps. Add home number. No, I don't want to do that right now. I've already got my home address in here set as default. But anyway, you can play with it, navigation. And the number one coolest thing here, shut down, is what's called the OBT2 Link dashboard. Now check this out. You've got all your dashes in here, RPM gauge, vehicle speed, anything you want to. And it literally takes minutes to set this thing up. Any dash you want to put on here, you can just hit a little button down here, add display or add dashboard. But that's the one I kind of run down the road with right here because it gives me RPM. And the data is pulled from one little convenient $40 box from a company called OBT Link. And you can see that I'm actually interfaced with my port right here, simple little port. Any modern car has this thing on it. And my Bluetooth is just a blinking away right there. So really, really cool feature. While I'm down here, I'll show you this little thing right down here. I didn't want to see my air conditioning because they're ugly knobs. Not ugly knobs, I just don't like them. So I've got everything down here. My AC heat. Right here is my fan speed. And this is what I call Climatronic, or you basically set how much you want the compressor to engage and cut off and on. So if you look at right here, it's where you can't really see it, which is kind of cool, but you know where it's at. Another thing I want to show you right down here is if I cut on the ignition, only when the ignition is on, cut off my fan, reach over here and cut this one little light on. See the green light that popped on right here? Now I'm in full manual mode. You put this thing in drive, O, right here. And now I can just switch up shift, down shift, up, 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 down, 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 and it remains in that gear. So that's kind of cool. So you don't have to sit there and take this thing and move it up and down. You can just basically pop it like this and you can actually switch gears up and down, which is a really, really cool feature. Super smooth, everything's working right now. I'll cut this off right now. And then you've got one little button down here. Either you cut the ignition off or you push the button and everything is back to old school type stuff. So let me cut the lights off, run outside. I think I've showed everybody thing in here. These are my main amplifier switch for the amplifier, main amplifier, JVC head unit, and this right here is just for my emotion lights, I call them, or Stimmungslampe. Oh, actually, they're just lights on the inside. And then right here is obviously for the electric windows, or excuse me, the electric sunroof, and you can move this thing up. You've seen this in previous videos. Hello there, Roger here. Cruising back and forth, and it's a neat little feature we've got. And then obviously if you want to get nice and dark in here, you can take the back, which is coming up right now, it's a sun visor, and shut this thing completely down so it's nice and dark up in here. Electric windows are all adjusted, working right now, so that took a little bit of thing to work on. Let me go back here and show you a couple of things over here. The list is almost done. So that's really, really cool. I got wind lace inside the car right now, and I've been cutting my little pieces right here. I take this thing right here and actually cut them with a jigsaw, match them. This takes a lot of time, and then obviously I'll write down, cover this side, because I have been known to make the templates and cover the wrong side, and obviously you're 180 degrees out when you try to put the thing on here. Once you get these things done, you basically flip them over, grab yourself a couple of Naga hides, Kunstleder, leatherette I think is what the Americans call it, and then I run my stapler right here with a little bit of Patex, which is like a spray glue. And the reason I didn't use this one because it's just a little bit too short on the end right here, so I just made myself another one. The list, almost complete. Everything is almost done. A couple of minor things left on here, but the car is actually driving on the road right now. Took it about 200 kilometers an hour yesterday, which is about 120. Still working on my toe in a little bit, but I think I've actually got it straight because I don't like going anything above 80, 90 miles an hour and the car feels squirrely, but I think I've got that figured out. Here's the one I was telling you about that's in the car right now. Here's the one that I had. This is the cable one. This is about 25 bucks. These things right here about 35, 40 bucks depending on where you get them online. And here are all the cables, $3, $4, and probably about $6, which just did not work. I want to be able to charge and also suck data at the same time. What do we got over here? You pull a cheap $40 rear end out of the junkyard Ford Explorer track lock, and hit and miss. The one that was in the coupe about 4 or 5 years ago was rock on, no wine or anything in it. The one that I got in here has actually got a little wine on it, so time to explore how to actually put in a rear end, but there's enough YouTube videos out there and enough instructions, and I think I've got maybe the skill sets to do it. Ring and pinion, new bearings, got myself a couple of extra crushed sleeves, dial indicator to set end play, and the rest of the stuff. The Gearstar transmission is already pre-ordered. Thanks a lot, Zach from Gearstar gave me a pretty good deal on that. We had it shipped over here to Germany, and that is going to go directly into the 1966 C10 pickup truck, which I purchased because it's got a 350 auto trans in it right now. Do not like the one-to-one gear because it revs the engine up too high on the Autobahn or the interstate when we were driving it from Dallas to the Turkey Run car show, which was a pretty cool event, by the way. We drove that 66 all the way from Dallas, Texas, turned in the rental car, and came across the Panhandle in Florida, Destin, Panama City, and then ended up at the Daytona Beach car show where we had a beach house rented. The Croatians showed up, the Brits showed up, the Germans showed up, and we had a hell of a time there. A lot of fun. We'll probably do that again in 2018. Everybody knows the coupe's running strong, just waiting for the weather to get a little bit nicer so we can cruise around on that one. This is an eBay purchase of mine, 1,100 euros, which is about 1,200 bucks. 1959 IWL Berliner Roller, scooter if you will. But the thing's tapping out at about 9.5, 10 horsepower, which is stock. It's got a 2-stroke motor in it with 16,000 kilometers on it. And I put new tires on it, front and back. And basically new points, new battery, got the thing running. Got every single light working on the thing. And what's cool about here is, like, check out the rear lights right here. Blinkers, all working nice and slow. Standlicht, what the Germans call it right up here. The lights work on it. There's the high beam. There's the Standlicht on it. So just cool features. I love stuff like this, the old school stuff. Get it working, either original. I was going to put like a 500cc 4-stroke in it with about 40 horsepower, but tell you what, this thing looks so cool. The patina on it, and it runs great. I'm just going to keep it exactly like this and just cruise it for a little while, and then maybe flip it a little bit later on. What else we got here? So if you notice, my garage is a little bit cleaner here because a project from 2016 going into 2017 was to clean up this entire mess back here. Frankly, it's been about 10 years. So everything is organized. I got myself some metal shaving back up here, all my hoses, parts, whatever I need. I can actually walk up in here, and eventually there's going to be a toilet right there. So that's about it. Flat metal, tube metal, stainless steel, all my little parts is kind of organized so you can actually see stuff back here. Trying to think there's anything else, but I think that's about it. So, cool beans. I think the BMW I've showed you already, 1974. Purchased that yesterday, and I think that's about it. No more depreciation for Rogers vehicles. We'll flip and sell this thing in 3, 4, 5 years, or continue to drive it from Portugal. So, basically rust-free, or it is rust-free. Little 86 horsepower motor in it. And the wife will be driving that. Also, von Deutschland, Runneberg, Germany. This is a Plymouth Rat Rod build part number 32. Car's on the road, almost done. And I consider it done right now. Stereo's working on it and just ready for a couple of car shows like the Hockenheim Drag Races or Hareton Car Culture Forever and the Rhein-Main Cruisers and the Timo crew out there. So anyway, bye-bye from Germany, 17 February 2017. Auf Wiedersehen, bis nächstes Mal. Take care, bye-bye.